Thank you, Dr. Chintamani and Dr. Kaur. I know it's a very painful session for anybody to come and sit and listen to the talk on oral cancers. You know that in oral cancer, the important thing is making the patients to have their good food and eat them well, give a good quality of life. That is very important. Let me bring the greetings from Bangalore Institute of Oncology. I have taken up the topic of management of oral cancers, surgeons' perspectives in Indian context. And this is one of the famous statements made by Blake Caddy when he was delivering the presidential oration at Surgical Society of the United States, that a surgeon, when he has to differentiate from the other routine general surgeons, he should understand he called it biology is the king, we should know about it, case selection is the queen, the technical maneuvers undertaken are the prince and the princess of the realm. That is where the surgical oncologists differentiate it from the other routine general surgeons who deal with various problems along with oncology. With this in background, in the morning we have heard the magnitude of the problem of oral cancer, a common Indian cancer, an epithelial cancer, a preventable cancer, and a tobacco-related cancer. Magnitude of the problem, the statistics have been already given in the morning session. You can see how people enjoy the eating of the tobacco with areca nut and they are getting yield to that. The fascinating part of this is we are seeing this cancer in a very younger age group. Earlier when we were the residents, we never used to see the oral cancer in the age group of 12 years, 15 years, 18 years. Today we have changed and people coming with 12 years, 15 years, even non-tobacco chewers are coming with the disease of the oral cavity, and this is where we have to look at the future, because the most cancer death in India is occurring between the age group of 30 to 60, where they are very prime earning members of the family, their future is there. So our job is how can we prevent this disease occurring in a younger individual. And as all of you know that this mucous membrane of the oral cavity behaves differently in different part of India. If you look at the buccal mucosal cancers, we see mostly in the north and south. If you look at the oropharynx, you see mostly in the western part of India. If you come to northeast, you see the nasopharyngeal cancers and buccal mucosal cancer. If you go to the coastal areas of Andhra Pradesh, you see the palatal cancers more common. This is where this mucous membrane, though it is same, it behaves differently in different parts of the country. This is one of the statistics from the Bangalore population-based cancer registry of the ICMR, indicating in the urban population and the rural population. Morning it has been highlighted very well from the speakers. I don't go into the detail. This is the anatomical involvement of the various parts of the oral cavity. And this is the estimated number of deaths, because somebody was asking where do you get the data from all these things. We have published data from the Asia Pacific Journal of Cancer Prevention, where estimated number of tobacco related cancer in India by both the males and the females, and the estimated number of cancers, as I told you, in relation to tobacco relation. And this is in the various context. We are trying to see that by the end of 2020, you can see the magnitude of the problem of cancer. In 2020, we may see 218,000 and are indicating what we have to do to prevent this cancer. We don't want to see that I see large number of patients in our outpatients. And this is the cumulative risk when in the various population-based cancer registries in Bangalore, Chennai and Mumbai. I don't go into the details because morning everything has been highlighted on the incidence of cancer in India. These are the 10 major cancer sites in India. And most important thing what over the years we have developed is the concept of development of the multidisciplinary team, which has brought in a big revolution in the management of these cases. Today, if you want to treat the head and neck cancer, you should develop the team. The team should consist of a good surgical oncologist, the radiation oncologist, pathologist, psycho-oncologist, medical oncologist. Apart from that, subspecialties of a microvascular surgeon and maxillofacial surgeon. And we should never forget the rehabilitation team like the speech therapist, prosthodontist, a critical care person. This is how this team has made a big change in giving a quality of life. This is the magnitude of the problem, how the people present to us. This is not an unusual to anybody who works in a cancer institute to see this kind of presentation. When they present like that, we know that we cannot do anything. They all go for palliative care. These are what I meant by non-metastatic resectable cancer. We see them in an advanced stage. We may not cure them, but we should give a good quality of life. That is what lot of centers handles, to give a good quality of care rather than talking about curing these. The facts in head and neck cancer is that earlier surgery was the only modalities of treatment. We used to do bigger and biggest of the operations and never used to do the reconstruction when I was a resident. Later on the concept of change, and there is a rethinking that organ conservation is more important. So we went on having a combined modalities of treatment. Then we started utilizing neoadjuvant chemotherapy, downstage the tumor, then do the surgery. The newer combined modality regimes will offer the patients a better prognosis, organ preservation, less morbidity. But the disease-free survival, functional outcome, toxicity of the therapy, overall survival remains less than optimal in spite of all the advances. Management of patient head and neck cancer is a symptom complex. The loco-regional control of the disease, we are doing it using the various combined modalities of treatment. Development of the multidisciplinary team is more important. And whenever you are talking about the management of oral cancer, the treatment of the primary surgery as a modalities of treatment, the changing concept have come depending on the stage of the disease, whether you like to do a neoadjuvant chemotherapy or adjuvant chemotherapy. Surgery is also done as a salvage after the failure of the chemo radiation as a modalities of treatment, and when the patient comes with a recurrence, we do the surgery. And today one of the advances we have made in head and neck surgery is reconstructive surgery to give a good quality of life. And how to evaluate these patients? Today we do it as one of the low cost imaging. We do not use any of the fancy things for oral cancer unless and it is indicated. We do the simple good clinical examination, do the TNM staging, take a good biopsy, plan the treatment. Only in specific condition we try to use the advanced technique like CT, MRI and PET. We are going to have a discussion on that. One of the simplest and the low cost imaging is whether the mandible is involved or not in oral cancer. We use what is called as orthophantogram, which gives us a picture. Even when you take that picture, if you are planning for surgery, we can utilize that. And what is the goals of treatment in head and neck cancer? Try to achieve a cure, restore the form and function, minimize the sequelae and complications of the treatment. Our job is these patients are going to live long, prevention of second primary tumors. And in the therapeutic aspect of it, we have to manage the primary disease, manage the lymph nodes and reconstructive surgery, and of course the rehabilitation. The most important concept one has to look into the management of oral cancer is treat the primary tumor, treat the lymph node. We all know that lymph node involvement is an important prognostic factor and predictor of survival. We have to address the lymph node. That is why the concept of loco-regional lymph node involvement is become a much more important in oral cancer. With this in background, I told you the local disease, nodal disease, function and cosmesis. The bottom line is we should give quality of life, either use any sequentialing of surgery, radiation, chemotherapy, surgery, radiation, any kind of sequentialing one can use in the management. And this is the policy treatment we follow whenever we deal with when we stage the disease. I don't go into the details of it. These are the standard accepted modalities of treatment: surgery versus radiotherapy, surgery versus radiation. Few important factors one has to consider in management of oral cancer is the patient factor, the tumor factor, the resource factor. As I told you, the T status is very important, N status is important, grading of the tumor. That is where we have done the modification of the various neck dissection depending upon the depth of infiltration, especially in oral cancers, as you see in these pictures. And let me take you to one of the common cases which we all see, locally advanced oral cancer. We all do the composite resection with reconstruction, and we have done this post-operative chemoradiation or a concurrent chemoradiation for many years. And these are all one of the accepted modalities of treatment. We have achieved some time of a control of the disease. Another most difficult part of the treatment is the floor of the mouth. Though it is not very common in India, we see large number of floor of the mouth which involves the especially the arch of the mandible, because the arch involvement, once we excise the arch, the difficulty of giving a good restoration is more important, and the need of the hour today is many years we never used to do the reconstruction of the mandible because we never understood the anatomy of it. Today we understood the vascular anatomy of the human body. We can take the bone from any part, do the microvascular anastomosis, give the mandible its shape, size, depending upon how much to reconstruct it. The need of the hour today, where the advanced techniques have taken place, is reconstruction of the vascularized mandible using free fibula has become order of the day in reconstruction of the mandible. This is one of the classical examples. As I told you, you excise the arch of the mandible with floor of the mouth untang, use the free fibula, use the microvascular. Today we got 3D imaging during the post-operative period. Whether your mandible is accepted or not, you can see and have a good follow-up of this patient. This is how we utilize the imaging even in the management of follow-up of these patients. With this, as I told you, we too had a good experiences in doing. We started doing this 10 to 15 years ago because we need the people, development of the team. We had developed one of the persons to do pure reconstruction microvascular technique, and we had a good experience, published this. Endpoints of head and neck is we have to have the loco-regional control of the disease. One modality of treatment is not sufficient. A combined modality of treatment is very important. The most important, as I told you, quality of life is very important. Whenever you do the treatment for this patient, we have to assess the quality of life. And the newer concept which came in management of oral cancer is neoadjuvant chemotherapy. This is done in locally advanced cases, downstaging. We knew the pathological response is very good. Sometimes the responses are so good, patients have ran away for not coming for the treatment. Even this has led us to that we could not complete some of the clinical trials because the patient never came back. There was the 0% response, that they were eating well, there was no pain. These are some of the lacunas. When we did this neoadjuvant chemotherapy for oral cancer, we found it. And the era of earlier year when I was a resident, we used to leave behind the whole defects like this, cover the defects after 6 months when there was no disease. As I told you today, we understood the biology of the disease, we understood the vascular anatomy, we went on doing the reconstruction. The concept of primary reconstruction after excision has become mandatory, and there is a lot of evidences you can do this. And this is the various kinds of reconstruction over the decades we have done. Today we are in the era of doing the free flap reconstruction, but still pectoralis major myocutaneous flap is a workhorse for all head and neck surgeons and the surgical oncologists who deals with the large volume of oral cancers in this country. What progress we have made involving the oral and maxillofacial surgeons is whenever we do the reconstruction of the bone with the free fibula, we can use the osteointegrated implants, titanium implants, give them the full teeth so that they can have the good quality of life. What we are talking about, eating is an important aspect of it. And management of the mandible, I already told you, very important. Earlier year there was a concept that all the tumors used to permeate through the mandible. That concept is not there anymore. Today we know that mandible can be preserved. In some of the cases when the tumor is closed, there came a concept of marginal mandibulectomies, archmandibular mandibulectomies, and sometimes we cut the mandible, what we call as axis mandibular osteotomies, and take out some of the tumors situated in the posterior aspect of it. And we also done the maxillary osteotomies, which is very important, and some in the difficult areas like retromolar trigone, infratemporal fossa. If the disease is extending into the infratemporal fossa, in all these inaccessible areas, you can use maxillary osteotomy. This is a bite excision. We don't excise the mandible in all cases. If the tumor is situated in the retromolar area, you can do the partial marginal mandibulectomy and upper alveolectomy, what we call as bite excision. In such cases, you can use judiciously the imaging to know that what is the extent of resection one should do it. And this is called paramedian osteotomy. As I told you, you cut the mandible, put it back, remove the tumor, and do the reconstruction. There was no need to remove the mandible in all these cases. And when we were doing like this, we thought, why can't we do this for a maxillectomy also? And we did a publication on this transmandibular, the value of transmandibular approach to total maxillectomy for both maxillary sinus tumor, upper alveolar tumor, superior sulcus tumor, which got published few years ago. And as I told you, the CA oropharynx, here is the lady who came to us, and she was a very young lady of 34 years. She has no habit of tobacco. Still she came with the base trunk lesion. We had to do the surgery, radiation, chemoradiation, all kinds of things using a radial artery flap. Today at the end of 5 years, she is free of disease. And management of paranasal sinus tumor, we all know that radical maxillectomy was the only thing available to us, starting from the Weber Ferguson's classical incision. Today we understood the anatomy, we had a good imaging. Today we can do the radical maxillectomy, we can use the skull base. In some of the cases, we have to do only an access maxillary osteotomy when we see the lesion in an younger age group. We all know that today from conventional surgeries, we have moved into the what we call as robotic surgery. Robotic surgery has got its own way. Whatever the robot they have developed is very much suitable for a gynec surgery or abdominal surgery, not for head and neck surgeon. That is where the drawback of using. And today one of these cases we did many years ago, when young people used to come, they do not want to have an incision on the face. Some of the paranasal tumors, when they are situated like this, we did maxillary osteotomy and made the cut, created the Lefort 1 fracture, brought down the palate. We went in and excised the whole of the tumor with free margin. You put the palate back, next day you can start feeding it. These are one of the advances we have done. We have made a publication on the usefulness of Lefort 1 fracture in paranasal sinus tumors when we see them without tumification into the nasal cavity and the oral cavity. And one of the common problems we see day in and day out is management of recurrences, and how to treat them is one of the important things. These are some of our advanced cases, and where we know that nothing more can be done, where we had to give a palliative treatment. Today we can put them on some clinical trials and manage them. Here is one of the persons where we had a recurrence of the tumor. We put them on combination with the target therapies. They have shown a response. Today we can utilize these PET CT is one of the, as I told you in the beginning, we always do the low cost imaging only in certain areas. If the patient is having a severe trismus where there is a persisting pain, we are not able to assess clinically the recurrences, one can use the PET CT and have a follow-up after the treatment to know whether the patient has shown the response to chemotherapy or not. This is where we are using the usefulness of PET CT in assessing the response in advanced oral cancers. And the same patient before the treatment, after the treatment. And predictability of cancer, the dilemma continues. Who is going to do well, who is not going to do well, we are all seeing day in and day out. We know that some people do very well, we see them in long-term survivals. We were trying to look back why this is happening. Many times we have seen early cancers coming back with the recurrence, advanced cancers, they never come back. And at this juncture, when we see the patients coming back with the recurrence, some of them are doing well. We were under the dilemma how we should go about in these cases who had not shown the response. Then we thought today we are in the era of molecular markers. Let us look into that. We made some study and made a publication, a usefulness of P53 mutation overexpression in those people who have come back with recurrence, those people who have done well. We concluded from our observation in 22 cases, the results suggest P53 mutations should be a promising marker in predicting the treatment response in carcinoma of the larynx. We noticed this in our own experience of dealing with hypopharyngeal cancers. And what is new, as we are all discussing since morning, diagnostic molecular biomarkers is important, and how can we transfer these biomarkers when we use it for diagnosis into a therapeutic target. And we did some study on usefulness of estrogen related receptors. You know that surgeons are always fond of receptors, how they can utilize it both for assessing the prognosis and use it for therapeutic responses. We thought that with the good experiences of estrogen receptors and the anti-estrogen treatment in breast cancer, when we were looking at some literature, the role of estrogen related receptor alpha, we found it, and this was the background. We did the study and we found that methods we used was oligonucleotide based comparative genomic hybridization analysis in our laboratories, which we have given 8 samples to our. I don't do the basic biology work. We work with Professor Kundu, who is sitting, who is from the Jawaharlal Nehru Institute, and Dr. Arun Kumar's lab in Indian Institute of Science. They have become my very good friends, and a part of our team to do the various molecular markers for us, and that is how we are making a progress. When we know our limitation, we cannot do certain studies, we have to develop the team and make a progress ourselves. So we know that estrogen receptor is one of the important thing, and that is what we found in the oral cavity cancer. The expression profile of estrogen receptor is correlated well with the aggressiveness of the cancer, suggesting that it may play a role, but it requires some in the role in the proliferation and metastasis of cancer. We are looking at it. Study is not yet over. Now we are thinking how can we utilize it in a clinical setting. Will a simple tamoxifen will help in reducing the tumor factor. It requires a long way. We have to do some more studies in this aspect. And as I told you, this is the conclusions we draw from our studies which we presented in the ASCO last year. And another important work we are doing with the Arun Kumar's laboratory is involvement of TSC genes and differential expression of the members of the mTOR signaling pathway in oral squamous cell carcinomas. Since morning you are all hearing of the mTOR signaling pathways in various kinds of other malignancies. We looked into that and we found that there is our studies suggest that involvement of tumor suppressor gene and other members of the mTOR signaling pathway in the pathogenesis of the oral squamous carcinoma and a promoter methylation are two important mechanisms of downregulation of the TSC gene, which suggests that known inhibitors of this pathway could be evaluated for the treatment. We are looking at it. Morning somebody has presented the rapamycin and its usefulness, and we are looking the usefulness of rapamycin as a therapeutic target in oral cancer. The study is going on. And as I told you, there is a lot of things we have to join hands with as I told you, there is a need for a liaison between both the basic research people and the clinicians who deals with the cases, and unless until we join hands together, we cannot come out. We have to understand both of them together and go with it. These are some of the cancer survivors. Even in spite of our locally advanced disease, we see them living long. As I told you, predictability, the dilemma continues. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, surgery helps in loco-regional control of the disease. Multimodality of treatment is the order of the day. Sequentialing may change depending upon the various anatomical sites in head and neck. Need for development of new development markers for both diagnosis and therapeutic targets are very important. This is our team which we developed at Bangalore Institute of Oncology. One side you see the clinical team, other side the ISA Arun Kumar's lab, where we try to develop the tumor suppressor gene concept and the estrogen receptor. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience here.